Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. Today's video, we're gonna not talk too much about all the bad stuff going on in the world, because there's plenty of that stuff going on, right? There's lots and lots of bad stuff. I cover just a smidgen of it every day. There's lots. But today we're not going to talk too much about it. I mean, there's stuff I saw that Biden administration is considering sending long-range strike missiles to Ukraine. So I'm sure that's going to make things so much better there. Anyways, I wanted to do a little public service announcement, I guess, for you homesteaders. We talk about being self-sufficient, talk about, surviving, and, we gotta take care of ourselves and do things on our own as much as possible, and develop the ability to do that kind of stuff, because it may come to a point that there is no help. There's no outside source. There's no outside food source, no outside water source, security, all that kind of stuff. This year, at least around here, now I know it may be different where you're at, but around here, we're seeing, I've been telling you how warm it is. It's much drier than it should be. We've had virtually no snow to speak of. Very unusual year. A couple of dustings, and that's it. And so it's made things dry. And wildfire season is already here. I went on another wildfire call this morning. We were all over at our station. Had a crew of us over there kind of cleaning and getting things organized. It's starting to look like a fire station a little bit more. And, of course, we got toned out for a call while we were there. So, we had everything pulled out, a lot of stuff outside the station. We had to hurry up and stick it back in so that we could lock things up and go. But the point that I'm getting at is that that's one of the things. Do you have a fire protection plan for your homestead? The way it is now, most of you live in some area that has some level of fire department. It's probably volunteer if you live out, and you're in the boonies like here. It's probably a volunteer fire department, but nonetheless, there's still people that will come most of the time to come and help put out your property fire, your house fire, all that kind of stuff. Do you have a plan for that? I have seen several people create a little miniature fire truck kind of thing. You can buy an old pickup truck. Around here, you can buy old farm trucks that people sell just to use on the farm. And a lot of them don't even have titles anymore, to where you can't even license them, or they're not roadworthy necessarily. And so people just use them on their property, or they're just, kind of a piece of junk. It's not something you want to be driving all over in. But could you use it on your property to, throw an IBC tote and a trash pump on the back of it with some hose so that you could put out a fire? Certainly. A small trailer, a 5x10 trailer, put an IBC tote on the back of it. Get a trash pump, which pumps water. You can get those at Harbor Freight pretty cheap. It doesn't take that much to put stuff together. Proper rakes, you want some heavy rakes, heavy duty, in the fire area, we call them Pulaskis. They're kind of like a heavy hoe, but you just a regular garden hoe. You want something good quality, and have a plan for that. You also want to keep down brush and all that kind of stuff around, especially around your home. You want to create a fire break between your house, your buildings, and then the rest of the property. So that's just one thing. Do you have a plan for that? And maybe some of your plan is, well, you hook up the water hose to your water faucet, and you turn it on and you spray the water out. Well, what if the grid goes down and you're running off of a well, and now your well doesn't work? What if you're running off of some type of water supply that's not under your control, and that goes down? So now you don't have water. Maybe you can get water other ways for drinking, but you don't have enough water and pressurized water to put out a fire. So having some kind of backup plan like that is not a bad idea. It's the same way with security. It's the same way with medical. It's the same way with producing food and preserving the food, having a way to store the food, all of these things that we should be planning on doing. You should be actively either doing them right now or have a plan in place to do these things when the time comes. I mean, if you're homesteading, which is just another term for a small farm that you're trying to be self-sufficient, right? It's a small, some people call them hobby farms, just a small piece of acreage that you're trying to be as self-sufficient as possible. Well, part of that self-sufficiency is being able to secure your property as best as possible. Because even now, many places, and where I live is one of them, if you have to call 911, it could be quite a bit of time before they show up. It may be 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour. You never know. Whether it's medical, fire, police, it could take a while. These types of numbers that I've given you are going to get worse as things worsen. I've used this as an example several times in the last few weeks, but it's a good one. There was an article several weeks ago about a town up in Wisconsin. I believe it was Wisconsin. Maybe it was Michigan. I don't know. It's somewhere up there, okay? It doesn't matter where. It's a town of about 14,000 people. And they had gotten, I think it was a few hundred, maybe 1,000 illegals that had been dropped off in their town. And the article was talking about how that many people completely overwhelmed their system, that the police were no longer able to handle the call volume. Ambulances were overworked. The hospitals were overflowing. The schools were overflowing. And it wasn't a huge amount. It was under 1,000 people in a town of about 15,000. And so it doesn't take that much. I've said this for years. Our whole system, we use the food of groceries, that on-time delivery with groceries. You don't have grocery stores anymore that have big storerooms in the back with lots of stuff. Most of the supplies that a store, the stock that a grocery store has, is on their shelves. They don't really have a big storeroom in the back that they store things, because they have that on-time delivery where they have it scheduled. So just when the milk starts to run out, that's when they get the new delivery in. And when it starts to run out again, the next delivery. And so it's set up that way. The whole system really is. Your hospitals typically, if your town has a hospital, that hospital is just big enough to handle the amount of people in it. The police department, they have just enough people on to handle the call load. And if overnight you dump a few hundred or 1,000 or whatever the number is, it very rapidly overwhelms things. So that's one of the reasons why, as things start to get worse, even if you're not out here in the boonies, as things get worse, as more people start pouring into this country, and they are hundreds of thousands a month, part of your preparedness plan isn't just, do you have enough buckets of beans and rice and you have enough boxes of bullets? It's, do you have a plan in place to take care of the needs that you have, or the needs that the people around you have, when the services, they may still be there, but they're so overwhelmed they can't come. Or if they can come, it takes them so long to get there that it's almost worthless. That's why I push medical. That's why we started this emergency response team that now has morphed into joining the fire department, and now we're the medical rescue team for the fire department. It's one and the same. They're two separate entities, but we're one and the same. And that's why we started it, because we realized that as a community, we needed to have people that were properly trained and equipped, so that when things start get really bad, we have our own people that can go and respond. And we realized very quickly that we had so many professional people, we were getting professional training, easily equivalent to what fire departments and EMS to get. And in fact, in many cases, even better. It's the same training, that, we reached out to them, and that's how it all began. But you all should have plans like that. Do you have adequate medical gear? Not just to take care of a boo-boo, a scrape, a scratch, a cut, a blister. Do you have enough medical gear to handle multiple times. You know, just your little IFAKs that you get. Those are great. Those IFAKs are great, except for the fact that they're typically a one-time use thing. Maybe you might get 2 uses out of them. But most of the stuff that's in them, it's just a 1 or 2 time use IFAK. That's all it's good for. You have to refill it. And right now, that's not a problem. But what happens when you can't refill it? What happens when you can't go to the store? You can't get on Amazon or wherever and order it because it's gone. It's sold out. It's shut down. You don't have the right mark on you, or you don't have the right currency to buy it. That's why you need to have a supply of that stuff. I've been pushing for that for years. We should all have a pretty decent stockpile of medical supplies. You should have a stockpile of other things like that. And you should have a fire plan. You know, I've said this before. Some of you out there, maybe you're really well put together, right? As a prepper, you've got your stockpile, you've got the food, you got the ammo, you got all the stuff, and you're good to go. What happens when that all catches fire? Because house fires, building fires, things like that happen. They happen all the time, and you don't think that they're not going to happen when things fall apart? Of course they are. Well, what do you do if, you know, the world blows up one day? The apocalypse hits, the balloon goes off, whatever you want to call it, you know, it collapses, it crashes. And then, you know, a few days later, your house catches on fire, or your barn, whatever, your storage building, wherever it is that you got all your stuff, or at least even a bulk of your stuff, and it all goes up in smoke. What are you going to do then? Do you have a plan to put that stuff out? Do you have a plan to put the fire out, like I said? Do you have a plan to take care of the injuries that might happen? This is part of being self-sufficient. This used to be normal. It used to be normal. People had to put their own fire out. That's how fire departments came about. It was just, you know, originally fire departments were volunteer, and it was just the people around you that lived in your area, and they would come and they would help put out a barn fire or a house fire. And then it started to develop into something more. That's how it used to be, though. Everyone pulled together. They'd pull together to rebuild a house. They'd pull together to take care of an injury. You know, you didn't have hospitals everywhere, and you didn't have ambulances, and people learned how to take care of their own thing. You know, most any, you know, wife, mother could stitch up a wound. They knew how to stitch up a wound. It may not have been the best, but they knew how to do it. These are old skills that aren't old necessarily. They're just skills that the average person has forgotten. And we need to revitalize those skills. We need to realize that this is the kind of stuff we also need to be doing. It's not just about how much emergency food and cans and buckets of food that you have stored away. It's, can you take care of all these different types of needs and emergencies when there's no outside help? Because those kind of needs and emergencies happen already. They happen all the time. They're most likely going to happen more often when things fall apart, and you're not going to have help. So you need to be coming up with a plan for that, really thinking about this: fire, medical, defense, so on and so forth. You know, a tornado blows your house down, you know, all these kinds of things. You're out of water, the power goes out, and you can't get water out of your well. How do you do that? This is the kind of stuff you need to be thinking about, because it may not be too far off to where we experience some of that, even if it's just for a temporary time period. If the grid goes down in your area because of some attack, and it's only down for a few weeks or something, it could still, a lot of things could happen in that few weeks' time, and you better be prepared for it. Folks, it's time to get your houses in order and to prepare yourselves mentally, physically, and spiritually. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.